He was so articulate, we had to get him to come to our club meeting.
Yeah.
Well, I'm fourth generation Pond Gap resident. Back in 1927.
Loud.
Okay, back in 1927, Hollywood Road was named Pond Gap Road. That's the first mention in the city directory or anywhere else of Pond Gap. And in that 1927 year, we had one resident on the street. That was Tom Kelly. The Kelly family sold to the county the property where Pond Gap Elementary School is today. And we still have Kelly family members in the neighborhood. So they've been really great to us and everything.
Right.
There's Ed.
Yay,
We're going to mention
yay.
Ed here in just a minute. So what I'm going to do today, this is sort of an order, like you're going down Southern and you pass Third Creek, you're in the Pond Gap area. Well, one of the big events where the Armory is, and this is before the Armory and the high school, we had Ringling Circus. And what they would do, they would actually put up a tent and have the people come in, and several thousand people could attend. And my dad remembers the big train stopping at the Southern Depot downtown, on Depot Street of all places. And the procession would come down Southern, your elephants, all the animals in cages, the clowns and everything, people dressed up like the acrobats, and they would come down here and they would set this up. Ringling Brothers, when I got all this information a few years back, they had a wonderful museum in Clearwater. I hope they still have it because it's,
They do. I visited it.
it's just a shame that we don't have the circus anymore. Now, Clyde Beatty Circus, a much smaller circus, used to play where the truck farm is, AAA Cooper. I could not find any place where a museum, if they have, like I said, it's on a smaller scale. But great stories about this, and I guess the most important fact, my mom and dad had their first date at the circus.
Oh.
And I'm proud to tell you this relationship worked out very well.
Good.
On a smaller scale here, it shows the canvas being put on the ground, and the next thing they're starting to raise it up, and at the end it's full scale put up like that. But you ought to see the picture here where they would set the tables for everybody that was connected with the circus would eat. I mean, this was something else. Quite a few people ran the circus. And what they would do, they would come into Knoxville and they would have two shows one day, one the next, and get on the train, go somewhere, Asheville, North Carolina or something. Do this all over again. I mean, these were hardy people to put up with that and everything, that same routine. So that was a great thing to have. Back before, I think the last time Ringling Brothers was here at the Coliseum, we invited a couple of clowns to come down and we dedicated a banner in front of the Armory. Of course, we'll have to replace that, but it was something else to see these people drive by. What are these clowns doing out here? But that circus was really something. And the three rings, and I kept thinking to this day, how does the average person think of three things going at the same time? Oh, me. Your attention span is only so great. But it was really a joy to go back and look at everything, the flying, the acrobats and everything, flying trapeze and everything, and the elephants. I think it's something that the communities have lost now. Yes,
Definitely.
How many times a year would they come to Knoxville? Just once?
just once.
Can I say something?
Yes,
I went to that circus. Now, I was a very small child, you know,
Yeah.
I don't know how old I was, but I remember my mom and daddy took me.
do you remember Jim Dockery that used to live up on Eastern? He's long since passed away, but he would, a couple of houses here, he would park the cars. And I'm happy to say that you could park on both sides of Sutherland, and West High not being there, you could park there. No shuttle from the Coliseum, no parking garage you have to walk to, the parking was right there. So in '60, when the Coliseum opened up, they went out there. I think in between they would go out to Clinton Highway, I think where the car dealerships are out there now. But I tell you, the Coliseum, I thought they did a good job with that. And of course, it was easier to set up a lot of their equipment and everything. But okay, any more questions about the circus? Okay,
That's a good history.
so we're heading west.
Yeah.
Okay,
Ah, the red onion.
Knoxville's first airport, the first municipal airport, the first airport period. 1927. If you're looking at West High and the Army going that way, Walter Self started the airport. 2 years later, he sells it to the city for $40,000. But this is just fantastic, these pictures. This was about 1927, and here, about 1930, you can see the outline of the runway. And what's missing in this picture was my great-granddad and his brother's house. All of a sudden, it pops up in the 1930 because that's when he built the house. So that was quite an experience, having the airport there. They would have air shows, people jumping out of planes and so forth, and would give you lessons. And the story went that my grandmother one day wanted to take some flying lessons. Well, she did her gardening work in the morning and was getting ready to cross Sutherland, but you were safer crossing Sutherland then. There was an accident. Nobody got hurt real bad, but she said, I'm going to stay over here and tend to my flower garden, and I'll let somebody else fly the plane. So in the film I've got, a fella out in North Knoxville took some movies of a Ford Trimotor landing and taking off at that airport. And I'm not sure the capacity on that, but maybe 10 to 12 people could get on and off. And this was absolutely fantastic. At this period of time, a Ford Trimotor coming into Knoxville and landing like that. When we dedicated our marker, which is on Tobler, there was a fella over at the Cox Sky Ranch that had a biplane. And he said, if I can get the engine working, I'll do a flyover as you do the ceremony. And this was back in 2008. But everything else worked fine. TDOT actually came and put the sign in the ground as we're having the ceremony. Why TDOT did this, I don't know, but they did a real good job. And if you'll go and see that marker, you can see why it's called McGee-Tyson Airport. Originally, it was Sutherland Airfield for those first 2 years. Sutherland Avenue, okay. The Tyson family said, if you make sure your municipal airport always has the name Tyson, McGee-Tyson, we will give you land for a park. Tyson Park down here off Concord Street.
Really?
So,
Excuse me?
Yeah.
No, was Tyson Park Airport first and then this one?
well, they're one and the same.
They're the same airport?
It was called Sutherland and just changed the name to McGee-Tyson.
Oh.
And his full name was Charles McGee-Tyson. He was killed in World War I. He was a pilot. And so to honor him, that's what they did. Well, as
So
air traffic-
McGee-Tyson replaced Sutherland.
Right, just change the name on that. And of course now, 37, they closed here because the traffic was getting, a lot of planes coming in and so forth. And a few years back, I was mentioning to a friend, said, I'd like to have some kind of publicity campaign to let people know about this airport. And I would say, bring back Sutherland Airfield. You mean tear down the buildings and this? No, just let people know what happened. So today it's over in Alcoa or Blount County, and it can handle a lot more traffic, but it has to keep that name. Someone told me a few years back they tried to change the name, so they cannot legally do that. So it'll forever be McGee-Tyson. But it was just fantastic, the things that went on. When I went through the city directories, by the way, if you go downtown to the McClung collection, you can look at all the city directories going back to 1880. So I went down here, I went down Sutherland and get all the locations and everything. And of course, going back to 1920, 1915, it was pretty sparse. But one name that kept coming up was a house on the other side of Sutherland that did work on parts for these airplanes. They would actually make a propeller, they would do the landing gear, they would fix the wings. If you saw the movie that Jimmy Stewart was in about Lindbergh, you see him painting this stuff on the fabric. Well, that was to harden it. Of course, the smell was awful, but sort of like airplane glue. But that was so fascinating to see all that going on. So we've got our marker up, and it was just a work of joy to go back and look at all these things. Now, as we keep going, I don't know how many people remember the old Knoxville Drive-In. We have a marker as you pull in that lot over there where Ace Elders Hardware is. And as you go back this way, you can see some of the roads and so forth. UT had a apartment complex on the other side of the Armory. Quonset huts really went in for style back then. So, and I think they're always calling the fire department to come over. They had these oil heaters, but I was real young at the time, so I don't remember a whole lot about that. But the other thing I would like to tell you about is we had a real good fellow that lived in the neighborhood, had a business. He just believed the federal government should not tax his product. He was a bootlegger. Did
All
that.
right.
Big fans, yeah.
Well, his son became a judge in Jefferson County. Well, I've got some old pictures. It was if you go to the Farm Fresh Market, his house was behind that. And I remember a beautiful weeping willow tree. Well, on this map, you can see where his mother used to take a dairy cow and go to where Cagle Terrace is now. That was a house owned by Ken Lonis. Well, it's about 5 or 6 acres, had this beautiful rolling lawn, and he agreed to let her bring the dairy cow there and graze. And then she went on, I guess, to see her friends further west. At the end of the day, she'd come back and get the dairy cow. Well, I'm proud to tell you, and this was like in the 50s, this was Pond Gap's last official cattle drive. And this is really how we got our name of Pond Gap. The early settlers said, take your cattle out to the pond and let your cattle graze there and go down and get some water. Of course, the gap is not too big now, but the water's still there. And the Army Corps of Engineers told me that's a natural retention pond. And I remember growing up and walking over to Pond Gap School, and I'd pass that, and you could see all kinds of fish and lily pads and so forth. A friend of mine had a little tiny sailboat he would let go around the pond, and so I'm glad we're able to keep that. I could get some plants in there, but that was really a joy growing up at that time. And actually, the sidewalk we had was wider than what we got today, but it was gravel. And when you got near the pond, on this side of the street, you were like 10, 12 feet above the traffic, really safe. So when we got annexed into the city in 1962, they said, well, we're going to put in some sidewalks. We're going to make them out of concrete and everything. What did they do? They took that hill down. So now you're on the level with the cars going by. But that side, you don't have to walk through mud or anything. So that worked out pretty good. Well, let's see what else we can find here. We got the circus.
Can't say anything about the red onion.
He's going to.
Yeah, you'll get to it.
He'll get there.
Red onion.
That ties in with my shirt.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Okay. When we first started our neighborhood organization about 25 years ago, we applied and got funds to get a Pond Gap sign put out at Pond Gap Elementary School. And I wish you could have seen that area back then. It's a rolling lawn, we had trees and everything, and now we got a dirty looking retention pond and KUB cut all the trees down. So hopefully we can do something to beautify our retention pond. And one of the residents that lived in the community was Albert Milani, a brilliant sculptor. He came over from Italy. If you go downtown and look at the old main post office, look up at each corner, you'll see these beautiful eagles. He made those. He would, where the red brick house is that has Hallmark Realty and the Always in Bloom floors, that's where he lived. And he had a workshop in the back, and I'd walk over there, I'd be playing with friends, and I could hear him working in there. And on Saturday afternoons, he would sing opera. Now, he was not professionally trained, but had a God-given, beautiful voice, and it was just wonderful to listen to him. He raised some goats, and I probably drank quite a bit of goat's milk when I was small. And he had a vineyard. He made his own wine. This gentleman's really something else. And this, of course, this is a real young picture of him. But being from the part of Italy he was, very temperamental. 1 minute just as pleasant as can be, next minute he's just like, having a fit. Something didn't go right, but then he'd calm down again. But that was wonderful, having him in the neighborhood. if you go up to the Indy 500, their museum, he's actually done the head of many different champions. And I don't know how long it took him to do that, but just brilliant and everything. And here's Ed, as we keep going.
This
Ah.
Ed.
Yep. Yep.
Also, later
Who are
on,
you and Ed, and who's the other two?
Sandy Payne, who ran the golf driving range, and there's Ed. When the airport closed up, in the late 30s, 40s, and 50s, this area was known for baseball. And these were integrated baseball games. Very, very rare in this part of the country. In fact, Jack Naylor, the historian, said, I didn't know about these games, and few people outside the community did, but I was not surprised at Pine Gap's racial harmony, because in the early 60s, Otis Redding, if you're my age, you know who that was, he actually performed at the Armory before mixed audiences. And it was quite common on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon for the people in the neighborhood to come down and have a picnic lunch and watch the games. And the older players will help the younger players and everything. And there's some schedules out where they actually had regularly scheduled games. But the best games I feel like were played on Saturday and Sunday, just a pickup game. And that brought so much enjoyment to the neighborhood. There were some really skilled players. Roberta, I believe your dad played at that field. Yes. Well, let's see.
He also played for the Knoxville Smokies.
Yes. I see someone with the T-shirt over there for that. Now, before I get back to the games, I want to tell you about the drive-in theater. This opened up about 1948 and made it up till the early 80s before they finally closed up. But Mayor Haslam hadn't been in office too long till we got a marker up over there to commemorate that. And how many people can remember you put the speaker in the window and you drive off and it still connects? Well, yes.
Pull it right off the pole.
And I got to talk to two ladies that ran the concession stand in the 50s, and actually got to talk to the Coca-Cola driver that came over there. And I think the last movie I saw there was Ben-Hur, and that's wonderful on a big screen. But sadly, like a lot of things, came to an end. There's still a few drive-ins around in the country. I think there's one in Maryville, and somebody told me there's still one down in Atlanta, I think north of.
There's one in Roane County, and there's one in Loudoun County just closed. So Roane County and Maryville.
I don't know how many people remember the Twin Air on Clinton Highway. You could actually watch two movies if you park at the back of this one. You turn around and see that movie. So that was a lot of fun.
Actually, one of our church members, of course, has long since passed, but her name was Viola Sherlin, and she ran the ticket, gave the ticket, or sold the tickets for a long time, but not driving.
And if you're over there at Ace Hardware now, when you enter off of Forest Park, back when this was in business, you went downhill, and then you had the ticket stand. And the reason they did this, in one of the pictures, if you park on your car here, you don't want the car in front of you blocking you. So it's like there's a gradual elevation here. So they had to start, low to build up high. And that was just so wonderful and everything. And then the concession stand, always, when you're waiting for the movie to start, people start blowing their horns. People impatient, but their concession stand was really good. And the prices were really, really small. I think I remember admission was like $1, maybe $1.50. So since I was a youth at the time, I probably paid the $1. But, okay.
It was good times.
David, how about how many could you get in your trunk and sneak in and then get in the back?
Yes, in the trunk, yes.
Yep.
You didn't do that, Ed.
Neither did I.
Knock the back seat down.
Neither did I, Ed. I didn't ever sneak it back in.
We've all seen Grease.
Back a few years ago, Jonathan Magas went to West High School. He was a tremendous artist. he made us a mural showing the circus tent, the hangar of the airport, and West High. And our actual mural he did is pretty good size. We had it on display at the city county building for a while. We're trying to find a place to put that everybody can see. But just a tremendous talent and everything. Also, we have a picture when the interstate came to Pond Gap, early 60s. Actually, it took away a nice forest that we used to play in and everything. How many times my uncle would camp out in there. Now, I'll tell you a quick story. In the first grade, okay, things were not going well, so after lunch, I come back into the classroom and I go out in the hall and I just walk out the door and I go up the hill, up to Renford. I'm leaving school for the day and I come down, I go to my grandmother's house. And she said, David, did they let school out? No. Well, you better tell your mother. She was not too happy about it, took me back. Well, they didn't do anything to me. About a month later, I do the same thing. And the teacher said, don't ever do this again, or I never did. I never found out what they were going to do
What
to
the or
me.
was.
So, yeah. But back when I went, we had 8 grades. Here's something that shows the marker we had put up. Fred Duncan did a wonderful job with a lot of our signs and everything. Unfortunately, he's retired. And here's what the marker looks like that we got through the state. And the Tennessee Historical Commission does a really good job. They check all your facts. They suggest way to phrase this because you have so much space for the letters. And they have a book. You can see where every marker in the state of Tennessee is located. I know there's one about Mr. Reynolds up on Bearden Hill. So that's a wonderful thing to do. We have here, actually, we have an aerial photograph of the old baseball field. And this picture's sort of hard to see, a little bit better than some of the others, but the field was this way and you'd hit the baseball this way. So that baseball that was hit over Sutherland into the Red Onion lot, that's pretty far. But this was tremendous and everything. There was an Esso station, Bud Henson, across from Aldi's. And of course, people today probably don't remember what a service station was. I never heard the phrase. He would come over and he would prepare the field. They would drag the field. He would line all the bases and everything, get out the white stuff, the chalk, and then smooth down the field, make sure the mound was doing well. And he did this religiously. Just volunteered, got no pay for it. But people like that volunteered to really make something out of it. That's what was wonderful. See,
Now, the baseball field was where the UT fields are now.
And we have, which leads me to another story. We would like to get a little part of their land to maybe put up some markers. I'd like to have some baseball figures put up. We thought we were going to get use for a little bit of their land. Now, if you're across from Dead End Barbecue, their fence is about 40 feet back from the sidewalk. So we're thinking, hey, you're not using this land for anything. Let's put our markers up. We thought we were going to get the permission to do this. The fellow I was working with, he retires without telling us. So this new guy comes along and unfortunately, he wasn't interested in doing this. So one of these days, if I can pin down Randy Boyd, maybe we can do something. But George Ewart that owns Dead End Barbecue is an architect. He has come up with an idea. You walk on these brick pavers and it's like you're on a baseball field. And really did a tremendous job on that. The only problem with that, it would cost about $70,000 to do that, and I think that's way extreme. But what he's done is really, really sharp and everything. But maybe down the road we'll do something. If Ed gets elected again, he can donate this. No, but Ed, bless his heart, one of our markers there, he donated when you were on county commission, I believe. That was a wonderful day.
County commission and city council.
Yeah.
What are the official boundaries of Pond Gap?
Yeah.
What are the official boundaries of Pond
Okay.
Gap?
Basically what we've done, in the Office of Neighborhoods with the city, they like to know basically what they're dealing with. 'If you pass Third Creek, heading west, you're into Pond Gap. If you're coming back this way from Forest Park Boulevard, you're in Pond Gap. In fact, on the road up here, if you go by Boyd Lonus's office, it'll say, "Welcome to Pond Gap." You're leaving Marble City. On the other side,
It
"Welcome
says
to Marble City," leaving.
Pond Gap.
We get along great with Marble City. It's like two great neighborhoods side by side.
Absolutely.
Okay, southern boundary, roughly the railroad. And then up here, if you're on Paper Mill and you look up at the top of the hill, we either go to Lonus or a little bit above that, but it's, it's nothing really hard or fast or anything. But unless we decide to secede from the city or something and form our own government. And that's just a rough deal, based on where people go to school, if you're on a certain side of the street. And it seemed like this fits in well with what we try to do. People seem like they can recall, okay, I know where that's at and everything. I heard somebody say that Bearden ran from, and this is not true, ran from up here Concord Street down to almost Lenore City. One of my investigations was really where Mayo's is and where Carr Street is on Southern, that's where it began. And they stated this in the city directory, hey, you're entering Bearden, you're entering Bearden, which is good, and then back that way. And when I was growing up, when you got to Bearden Hill on the other side, you were out in the country. I mean, gosh, not much. WIVK had a studio up on Bearden Hill. And I remember them because they did the NASCAR races on radio. And my uncle, he liked the stock car racing and everything. But I think this is way before Westtown was built. That was just like a forest and everything. I remember they had the West Hills bowling lanes, remember that? And the interstate was just 4 lanes. So, but,
Tell us the Red Onion story.
okay. This is what happened one day in 1950. If you look at the Red Onion today, that first house on Hollywood, that was their backyard. So the Red Onion did not exist on this day in 1950. Okay, there's a real good baseball game going across the street. Walter Keith, the left-handed third baseman. Imagine that, they're very rare. I think they're playing a team from Lenore City. I know they played Sunbright and several other teams. And he hits this baseball, I mean, he gets a hold of all of it. It goes up across Sutherland. So Mrs. Kozar, the lady there, is putting her clothes on the solar clothes dryer, the clothesline. She turns around, the ball lands in her laundry basket. So that, as far as we know, is the longest home run that's ever been hit. So we had some T-shirts made up to promote that. I've got to brag about my T-shirt people out on Sevier Avenue, Davenport. Bob and Jenny, that Borderland Tees. They help a lot with history and so forth. And we've got some other shirts we're making, and they're going to help us with a little political campaign as well. They're great to work with, and it's just fantastic. The history we've got, and we can be proud of it and everything. And even Dick Vance, we can be proud of it. There is a story about him.
Tell the story about Dick Vance.
Okay. He moves, this is like late 50s. He goes down to Westland at Morrell Road. Beautiful brick home. It's still there. He lives there maybe 10 years. He leaves to go further west. What that house became is the Knox County Baptist Association.
Really?
Yep.
Is there a meaning here? Okay, I blasphemed, I'm sorry. But anyway, Dick really liked the neighborhood and everything. Like his son, he bailed him out. He's a judge in Sevier County. But just immaculate dresser and everything. And just, we may put up a historic marker there sometime.
Exactly.
Now, the little building where you picked up the product, used to be behind Farm Fresh Market. Unfortunately, that was torn down a few years ago. And I gave Rodney, the owner down there, the Dickens over there. So this historic property, why don't you tear it down? But everything in jest. But great community to live in. Like I say, my great granddad built a house on Southern in 1930. It's still there. It's a white house next to Emma's. The first 2 years I lived there with my parents, my grandparents, my great-grandmother, and my uncle. one bathroom, still one bathroom, and really enjoyed it. My great-granddad had a market downtown on Locust Street, and a little cafe in the market, where Market Square is now. They had the Market House, like what, 2 or 3 floors, something. Had a little cafe, and he ran a pool hall on Gay Street. And I'm trying to find out what the name of it was, because the story I was told that one day this fella was misbehaving, and my papa did not put up for profanity, nothing. So he told this fella, once, behave yourself. He didn't behave himself, so my papa takes the cue stick and lays him out over the head. He's unconscious. About this time, the beat cop comes in, twirling his baton. Mr. Newman, what is that? He said, he wouldn't behave. I'll take care of that, and I'll make sure he reimburses you for the cue stick. So that tells you a little about the family I grew up in. So, but really, I think everybody should be proud of their neighborhood. And back under Haslam, we had this Center for Neighborhood Development. They would send a representative out to your neighborhood, like they did us. We got incorporated. We're officially a corporation. And they would do all kinds of things to help you out. And it really, the difference today is you feel like today it's an arm of the mayor's office. It's completely independent. And of course, we took advantage of their neighborhood grant program. And we got money for our neighborhood signs and so forth, the newsletter and so forth. So, and I always enjoy to go to different parts of town in their neighborhoods. Learn many new things. But if you get a chance to go downtown, McClung Collection, see the old directories and everything, and also a lot of information I got about the baseball, old Knoxville Journal newspapers. Now the Sentinel, they've digitized a lot of their papers, but I love the Journal. I take that little round thing, the reel, put it in there, pull on the crank, and watch page by page come around. And you can either take a picture with your iPhone or they can make a picture for you. But I would see all these wonderful things about the community. And you'd see like a 1930 man's suit would be $13. You buy a Studebaker for $600. And oh man, and I'll get off track on something. And but it was just wonderful, the amount of local news on the front page, let alone looking through the whole newspaper. A lot different today, in my opinion. But it's just fantastic. I could spend hours in there, and really a helpful staff. They really do a good job. So we appreciate that.
Anyone have any questions about Pond Gap
I
or?
talked enough. So.
You good?
Did a great
Thank you,
job.
Dave.
Thank you.
Labor of love.
Absolutely.